everybody. But episode 8 is in the books. We're here to talk about it, and we've only got one more episode to go. Can you believe it? All the Salt Lake City stuff in one episode. They can probably make it fit, Actually, we already figured it out. This next episode is going to be an hour and a half long or whatever. Lamau. So we don't even have to worry about that. This one was only 55 minutes, if I recall correctly, which I always do, as you know. I guess it felt like that, it was like 55 minutes. I think that actually, to just transition into actually talking about the episode and all the preamble bullshit out of the way, I think that might be a problem with this episode. Now, I was conversing with Heath, who might make an appearance here in Chatty. We were just talking, and he said he probably thought this was the worst episode by a lot. And I don't know if it's by a lot, and I don't know if it's the worst episode, but there was something a little off about the episode, and I think it might have, look at him smirking, Oscar smirking right there. It was very quick. There's like 3 David scenes. I guess there's like 2 with Ellie, 1 with his group, and then him giving a speech, and then the one where he dies. There are a lot of David scenes in this episode. But the winter segment feels a lot longer in the game, probably because it's literally a lot longer. It's also like the highlight of the game for a lot of people. I don't know if it's the highlight for me. I'd probably say the Bill stuff might be the highlight for me. Just in terms of sections, obviously there are a bunch of little moments that are way better than both of them, just between Joel and Ellie or whatever. I don't think anybody, I don't think anybody would say this is like their favorite episode of the show or the standout moment where the show really elevated to another level, like they like to say about the game in this part. But I just watched the normies all say that, so maybe. There are a lot of very fun things in the episode. I think it might just be, though, these characters needed more time to stew or something, especially David. I know it feels like he's there. It plays out basically exactly the same in the game, where it's like, you initially meet him, and he's kind of like a nice guy, and you kind of fall for it, and then there's the twist where he's like the killed by a rabid man and a wild girl or whatever. Then there's a twist, and then he immediately seems sinister, but then he lets you go. And then eventually it's like, he's a cannibal and he's a pedophile, and it's like, this slowly unwounds. They also added the whole God thing, which I kind of liked, that it turns out he wasn't no God dude. He was just using it to like control people, and probably thought it was a good tactic to like bring everybody together, which was clever, I think. But that was all added. You really don't get any insight into his group outside of him and his one henchman dude that, I guess his name was probably James. I don't think they would have changed the name for the show, but obviously played by Troy Baker in this episode, which was cute. It is funny that they gave Tommy's voice actor a larger role than Joel's voice actor, when Troy Baker is probably the much bigger name, but that's just funny and cute. He went from a good guy to a cannibal to a rapist in like 20 minutes. In like 50 minutes. The good guy scene at the beginning is very short. But it is interesting because in the game, you meet him, you have that initial conversation where he's like very friendly. And then you and him actually fight like a wave. You actually kill a bloater, because we do that in the game a lot. They're not like these show bloaters where they take 50 rounds to the face and just keep walking. But we've talked about how the infected are always stronger in the show and scarier in the show, and resistant in the show before. But yeah, you like fight with him. So you're spending like 30 minutes thinking he's probably a good guy. And then after the fight, that scene unravels where he's like, and he brings it up. And there is an immediate shift. And that was still there in the episode, where it's immediately like, he's a bad guy. And that shift is very nice, and I do like it. And the same thing where it's like, James dropped the gun, and he's already shooting him at him, and then he actually gives you the fucking penicillin and then lets you get away. As clearly he's trying to ingratiate himself to Ellie, because he wants to fuck her. Crazy pedophile shit. But yeah, having more time to stew in the game, I think, helps it out a lot. Something completely new that I did like was, because obviously I'm like, when are they going to reveal he's a pedophile, and when are they going to reveal he's a cannibal? So the scene, and it's very good because you can slowly tell who knows and who doesn't know. Like the initial conversation he has with Troy Baker before he even meets Ellie, you're like, clearly they are talking about eating people. But like, these fucking anime onlys over here. They don't know this. They didn't read the manga like me. And the way they do that tension, and I actually liked it because in watching the normies' reaction, like Serge was freaking out when they were all eating and nobody else got it. Because, yeah, you can tell, and the meat looks weird, especially that scene where he brings it in. He's like, yeah, it's venison. That's supposed to maybe set off some alarm bells, but these normies didn't get it. But yeah, it's like, oh, that's human. And it's like, oh, funny. And then, like, Troy Baker is eating really slowly. And everybody else is eating really fast because Troy Baker knows that it's human meat. And he's clearly conflicted about it a little bit. But then David is also just eating very, like, calmly and normally. Because he doesn't care that it's human meat. It's great. The implication that he used to be a teacher was also nice because he's a pedophile, and that's there's a lot said there. Also, the pedophile stuff is never as direct in the game, because I think the first time I watched it, now I was a kid myself the first time I played it. I don't think I ever picked up that he was a pedophile the first time. It wasn't until I heard people saying about it, and then even then I was like, nah, that's not the case. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's definitely the case after like going back a few times. But yeah, I don't know how I missed that the first time, but I was just like, he's just a cannibal, and he kind of likes Ellie, I guess. There was all the lines they did word for word in this episode didn't make me cringe as much as they usually do. There was one that I actually thought was good, but I can't remember what it is, because the only one I can think of right now is the tell them that Ellie's the little girl who broke your fucking finger. That line, which was a lot angrier than like sarcastic in the game, which is the whole thing we've been talking about. Bella Ramsey the whole time, she does the angriness and the overall goofiness, but not like the niceness like Ashley Johnson does in the game. Now, just to sidetrack this completely, there was a line that I thought was good. That's where we were up to, and we hadn't figured it out. But I just watched the preview, as I do every stream before we started recording. Maybe I should have included that in the beginning of the discussions every time, but it's too late now to go back and do it. In the preview, Ashley Johnson's in it, and she's pregnant because she's going to be Ellie's mum, and we're going to get some sort of flashback regarding that. And she's like crawling away from a zombie while she's very pregnant. Now, what I think might end up happening, and I laughed at it and called it stupid before stream, so that's sort of my thoughts on it. But I think she might get bit and then give birth, and they might be trying to explain why Ellie specifically is immune. Which is silly, I guess. I don't know. If that does end up happening, I predicted it here. I'm a predictive genius, and I'm a god. Everybody that's listening right now will remember it. Though the last episode only did get like 63 views on YouTube, so not as much as our Attack on Titan videos, you know. But yeah, so we needed some time to breathe with David, I think, overall. There were some line-for-line things I liked. Joel, and this is kind of the same in the game, but it's a video game, so I guess it gets away with it more than a TV show. But Joel seemed real fucked up, and then real not fucked up and okay. The scene that I liked, that even though it was word for word, was the Joel interrogation scene. The game scene was probably better, but I thought nothing there made me cringe, even though it was the same lines, what it usually does. Fucking sick. Fucking sick scene, bro. Crazy. David slapped that kid. That was pretty funny. And the mother. Oh, there was also, I was trying to figure out if he was molesting that kid, because when that's introduced, and you're like, oh, the two things we remember about David is that he's cannibal and a pedophile, and that was introduced very at the beginning, and I was like, is there any implication that he's sleeping with this child or anything like that? But I don't think there was. Because I think there's a distinction in David's mindset between, like, somebody who needs a father and somebody that he, like, is romantically interested in, I guess. Because after Ellie, like, rejects him, he changed. He's like, maybe you do need a father after all. He says that in the boss room that they kept. The red fucking carpet. Ellie didn't run across plates and get caught, though. Broken plates. And a very gamified moment in The Last of Us Part 1. It's kind of a little out of place, I guess. The only kind of boss fight in that game. It's a little silly, but anyway. But yes, I'm kind of trying to speed through this because peek behind the curtain here for the YouTube audience. We're also going to be recording the Chainsaw Man chapter review after this stream, and I want to save as much battery for that. But I don't know. Nothing about the episode was bad. It was just a little quick, a little rushed maybe, even though I try to kill everybody that ever complains about anything being rushed because I think it's annoying and usually not what they mean in their criticism. But I think that's what I mean this time. Kind of rushed like this review, huh? Anything else particularly to bring up? They shot the horse. That was a cool shot where Troy Baker lined up the horse. Fucking pow. Poor Callus, who I think remained nameless in the show, died. Anything else particularly to point out? The interrogation scene was great. Joel's up and about. Him finding her outside of the burning restaurant thing, I felt was a little bit less than the game version where she's still stabbing on top of him. Oh, also when she's stabbing down into David, it looked fake as hell. It looked like he wasn't there and she was just doing it right to the bottom of the camera. And I was like, man, I remember in film and TV class when we used to film stuff, that's how it used to look. And it used to be so obvious that it was a different shot and that wasn't actually happening. And they tried to kind of do it with the sound effects, but there wasn't enough blood going on her face. It was weird. It's like I think it might have been last or the episode before where there was that really obvious fake looking horse in the last shot as the camera pulled out. That didn't move. It was wacky. By the way, I don't know if I missed something, but did the entire community ignore their massive whole light on fire? That was another thing. But they just seemed to be walking towards the river at the end. And also, yeah, nobody came to notice the burning building. I guess it was less burning than it was in the game because Ellie can't get out at the end and Joel has to come in and quickly shuttle her out and then they run away, I guess. But you sort of cut very abruptly. Also something that didn't work as well is the when the Ellie line. So yeah, that was kind of a weird thing. Shouldn't everybody be rushing over, being why the fuck is this building on fire? Another thing is that Ellie's lines, and this actually was a scene that I didn't like that they kept kind of the same, was her first interaction. Oh, she kept saying buddy boy, and Ashley Johnson nailed that line, and Bella Ramsey did not at all. And I was like, oh, this is cringe. But what was I going to say? The line where she's do you have medicine? And that's supposed to be your first big inclination that Joel is still alive in the game. But obviously they showed Joel alive immediately and they didn't harsh cut after he got impaled and fell off the horse to her hunting the rabbit. The rabbit didn't die. They didn't reference the meme at all. So that was wacky. So yeah, that didn't had lost its entire point that it had in the game. But yeah. Besides that, I think we've only been talking about 12 minutes, but I think that's basically everything there is to say. I can't think of too much else. Do I still have it open in Binge? Oh, I do. We can do our favorite part, scrolling through the timeline to see if anything jumps out. Ellie was really freaking out at a few points. When he was getting on top of her at the end. I don't remember Ellie in the game freaking out that much, and especially when they're taking her to the table to be chopped up. I don't remember her screaming and begging for her life. So that was a little weird. I was like, why is Ellie weak? Be stronger, Ellie. What the fuck? But yeah. I'm just scrolling through now. Her leading them away. All the action set pieces were taken out, bro. Not fair, not cool. We love action. But yeah, I think that is it. I don't know, it was fine. What an episode. Great. Crazy stuff. Best episode of all time. So we'll be back next week with the finale. Maybe I'll rope Elite RE in to talk about the finale. Because he has to. He hasn't made any other appearances yet, this hack fraud piece of shit. But yeah, so we'll see how it all wraps up. Will Ashley Johnson get bitten in and then give birth? And is that the reason why Ellie is immune? That would be funny. She's turning while she's being pregnant. It can be just like the last HBO show where there's a crazy pregnancy scene. It's supposed to be an allegory, bro, for how terrible normal pregnancy is when you're screaming and shit and transforming into a zombie. Crazy. Will that happen? And also, how long will it be? Will we have our giraffes, etc., etc.? Still better than that Attack on Titan thing. Shake my head. Heath, always the hater. But yes, check back next week to see answers to all these questions. Only one episode to go. It's kind of crazy, bro. Then we can add it to our media consumption checklist and finally feel good for watching something. Because it's not the actual viewing experience you enjoy, but adding it to a list on Twitter. That's pathetically small. But I don't need to talk about myself like that. Abby reveal next week. Of course, Abby will finally be... They're going to open the episode with her. I can't... They have to do it. They have to. They fucked off with Dina, maybe. There was no Jesse. They gave fucking Shimmer a shout-out. Abby's got to be in it. Owen could be there too. He's around as well. And obviously Jeremy, I think is Abby's dad's name. That dork, he's got to be around too. Will there be a zebra somewhere? Oh, will they have the hallway be the same? Now that'll give me the soy boy chills. But anyway, we got to look forward to all these things. All the Abby references our hearts could desire next week. I can't wait. With that being said, support links in the description below. Thanks.